Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mustafa Nassar. I'm an engineer and artist based in Toronto. Today I'm going to take you back to memory lane and go through my top 5 mistakes I've done when I started video production. Back then I didn't really know any of the fundamentals. I just knew that camera is a thing that takes pictures and videos and you just put it on the TV. Basically what I was doing is I would watch a video or a movie and say, I'm like, hey, this is the color. I'm gonna try and adjust that on the camera and get it without any post-processing. And that really put me in a position where I had to do a lot of trial and error with very low chances of success. So without further ado, let's go take you back to my 5 biggest mistakes. So mistake number 1, I had zero disregard to shutter speeds. Basically, I would just crank up my shutter if the image was too bright and just go down when it was too dark. And that really put me in a position where I had very alternating shutter speeds throughout my video, where I could have just adjusted my ISO instead and keep my shutter constant. Same thing with my aperture. So that really put me in a position where I'm just looking at my video and I don't see or that cinematic look that I like, or I've seen other people or creators using the same gear. And that is something that I had to learn the hard way, because when I look at my camera, the camera can take 60 to 120 frames per second. So I thought to myself, higher frame rates is better, right? I thought, well, if I needed to shoot it down to 24, I can just put it back in my timeline and I will read it the same way. And if I needed to do slow motion, I have that in just a matter of 2 clicks. And it took me close to a year to figure out that this was not the case when I started to watch other creators and see how their footage looked like and how the motion blur looked. When I look at other people, it almost looks like you're watching a movie. One time I decided to just shoot in 24p, and that kind of it was a light bulb moment, even though it's something so simple, like I could have just tried it. Just like if you're having a really fast racing car, the car can go 300 miles an hour, but you can't just realistically take that 300 miles everywhere. There is a space and place for each speed. And same thing with shutter speed. If you're planning to do slow motion, intentionally shoot it in slow motion. If you're planning to make an interview, there's no reason why you should take it in 120 frames per second, because the interview is not going to look natural. And if you're looking for a specific look, then shoot for that specific look. Mistake number 2, color grading. Basically, color grading was something that I do with images, but I didn't think I can do the same thing with video. Just because I knew a little bit about video, I didn't have access to good programs. I was just using a very basic Sony, not even the Sony Vegas, I was just using Sony Studio. And that thing had very limited color grading capabilities. And when I was introduced to DaVinci Resolve, and that's when I started to shoot in log instead of just trying to get that look in the camera. And doing that kind of allowed me to experiment and explore moods, portray story, because color is everything. If you shoot something in black and white, it will have a different story than something that was shot in a very saturated, in something that looks so dreamy, so faded, or it looks something completely different than someone is angry, someone is happy. So color really is mood and story. Mistake number 3. I don't know why, but it took me a while to put a mic on my camera. I always just thought that I don't need to do a narrative. I don't need to talk to the camera. All I can do is just take a B-roll, put a music on it, and call it a day. And that was pretty much the extent of all of my older work. I had no care for sound effects, no care for story, and that slowly kind of grew on me when I started to watch other creators, other filmmakers, and see that you can actually tell a better story with better narrative and sound effects. When I started to do that, it really helped me kind of unlock this new world where I can just create something better for myself. And that's something that I'm very excited to explore further, because sound design has something that was just introduced to me like a year ago. It's such a fantastic medium to go into, especially if you're an aspiring filmmaker. Mistake number 4 is lighting. I just thought I can just get a normal daylight and it will be fine. But the problem with daylight is if you get some sunshine and then all of a sudden you get a cloud that passing by, especially when you're filming something, all of that exposure changes. You don't get that repeatable process that you like, and you find that sometimes if you set your white balance in the beginning, if that sun changes a little bit or that cloud passes by, all of that hard work that you've done in the beginning, all these adjustments are done. So lighting, when it comes to, let's say, taking a video just like this one, it's always helped to have a specific light, a repeatable light that you can always have, so you can always have that same process repeatedly every single time. And that way you can actually make more videos and you can always improve upon it, rather than going in and every single clip, even mid-clip, you have to go and change your color balance, you have to go and change the exposures. It's such a hassle because when it comes to post-processing, you're trying to eliminate that as much as possible and make it a repeatable system, especially when you're doing a pre-production and post-production. So the way I look at it, like, try and spend twice as much in your pre-production to try and eliminate 50% of your post-production. And lighting is one of the biggest things, especially when it comes to video editing. And the last thing is shaky footage. When I started, I had a lot of footage. I took videos with everything that I had, like with my phone, with my GoPro, and it was almost unwatchable. The only good footage that I can get when I had my GoPro and I mounted it on the car and I took a time lapse. That was the only good footage that I had because I was stationary. And when I started to experiment with that, I thought, hey, wait a minute. Why do I have to make every shot a panning shot? Why do I have to do a zoom shot? Especially if I don't have the equipment. Why don't I just use what I have to make a better looking image rather than trying to create a needless motion? Because most of the motion that you're creating in your video sometimes is not necessary. If it doesn't have a narrative or if it doesn't portray a mood, that is not necessary. Just like when I'm talking to the camera, I don't need that camera moving unless it's something that, if I'm talking about something that's so dramatic, then yeah, for sure. But if I'm just talking to a YouTube or if it's something so simple, I don't need that much of a mood. And it's something that you can actually easier create with a B-roll, where you're actually intentionally taking that B-roll to make the viewer experience something else. I found it so much better if I could do stationary shots with different focal lenses to try and get a similar result, but without having that shaky movement. So if I'm trying to get someone just walking down, I can just do one where they're coming in and then go another shot close up when they're coming down from the side, and then one from behind a little wide to see where they're going to. And that way you portray the same thing rather than having a gimbal and following them around. I mean, it could look good, but when it comes to storytelling, I think the first method is repeatable and it portrays a better story. I definitely have no regrets of all of my mistakes that I've done in the past. It definitely shaped who I am today and how I approach video production in general. And it definitely gave me this a little bit of, you know, trial by fire, where I've already got burnt before, so I'm not gonna do that again or try maybe improve it upon. And I'm very grateful for that experience. I've made another video talking about how to shoot in any location, and I actually shot that in my motorhome, and I think you'll really like it. So until then, I'll see you in the next one.